Thank you guys for coming back for part 2 of our $17 for 42 meals video. This video will include the remaining 24 of our family of 6's meals. If you missed the other recipes and would like to see a shopping list, prices, check out part 2. All right, let's get started. Okay, so this first meal is a one-pot curry pasta stir fry. And here you'll see the chicken that I have cut up into small bite-sized pieces. I've added salt and pepper and that green marinade. So I have a big chunk in there that I had to go back and cut up. After I seasoned that meat, I let it sit for about an hour. Into my pan, I added the oil, and I'm going to add the chicken that's been sitting marinating. And we just want to brown the chicken a little. It doesn't have to be fully browned, that's to your taste. Remember, this browning process creates a lot of flavor, and because we're on an extreme budget, we want to extract as much flavor as possible. And you want to make sure that you cook the chicken through. So no matter how brown or how light you have, you just want to make sure that the chicken is fully cooked because you're going to be adding it back in. Like I said, this is going to be a one-pot meal. So all those bits that are at the bottom of the pot are just flavor and will help to enhance our pasta when it comes on in. So now we're just taking out the chicken and all those bits that are at the bottom of the pan are going to help to flavor our pasta. So to this, we're going to add some more oil. And to the oil, we're going to add our green marinade. And you want to make sure that you cook this through. You're going to add your curry powder to the green marinade. And you're going to stir it around, make sure that you don't burn anything, because that is the worst. You do not want to burn anything, but at the same time, you want those flavors to marry. And it smells so delicious. So to the curry and the marinade, you want to add your frozen veggies and your frozen pepper and onion mix. And you want to add a small amount of water. And that's just to make sure that everything incorporates and to get all those bits up off the bottom of the pan. So to our pan, we added our oil. We're going to be browning our chicken. There's no need to cook it through right now because it's going to cook through in our rice. Remember, this is a one pot dish, but we want it to get a nice brown color because remember that browning creates flavor, and at the same time we want our one pot meal to be very flavorful and colorful. So you want to add color starting here, and also those bits that are at the bottom of the pan are going to add flavor as well. So we want to turn our chicken, make sure nothing's sticking, make sure that it's getting brown. We definitely do not want to burn the chicken, but you want to make sure that you get a nice brown on your chicken. That marinade also helps to brown it. You do not want to burn your chicken, and you don't want to burn anything at the bottom of the pan. This should be a really quick process, so you can keep moving the chicken. Once you've got that sear on one side, you just want a quick sear on the other side because you do not want to burn the marinade that you have in the pan. So now that we've taken all our chicken out, we've added our pepper and onion mix, and we've added our green sauce. In my last video, I mentioned that green sauce can be frozen, and that's what I did. I grabbed it out the freezer. I added it to the oil and to the peppers, and it smells, oh my gosh. When this cooks and those aromas come from your pot, you could just eat this on its own or put this over something as a gravy. But we want to make sure that we scrape up any of those good bits that are at the bottom. And because we use frozen vegetables, it produced a little liquid, so it helps to get some of those bits off the bottom. So to the pan, we're going to add our coconut milk. And I always like to add just a little bit of water to the coconut milk just to make sure that it doesn't sit on the bottom and it doesn't burn. To this, we're going to add some salt and pepper to taste. And you can already see all the colors that are starting to come out. You want to make sure you stir that around, and then you're going to let it come to a simmer. Once it starts to simmer and those flavors start to marry, you want to go ahead and put your water in, and you want to add the reserved beans from the last bean recipe. And to that, you're going to add your rice, and you're going to let it simmer for a little. I like to let it simmer until some of the water dissolves. When you start to see the rice through the water, then you know it's time to put your chicken in. And I like to stir the bottom to make sure that nothing's sticking. You don't want to stir vigorously, you just want to scrape the bottom. As you can see here, I'm just scraping the bottom. I'm not stirring anything. I just want to make sure nothing's sticking. The water and the flavors are being distributed between the rice and the beans and all the deliciousness you have in this pan. So now we're going to add back our chicken. I added 6 pieces for my family of 6, so everybody gets some delicious rice and some chicken. Remember, this is a one-pot meal. And you can already see the colors. Once you place your chicken back inside your pot, you want to go ahead and cover it, and you want to reduce your heat, and you want to go ahead and cook this for about 20 to 25 minutes depending on how you like your rice. I let mine sit for about 20 minutes on very low heat. And there you have it, our one pot chicken and rice and bean recipe. It looks delicious and it tastes even more delicious. So our next recipe is our curry veggie fried rice, and this is a very simple recipe. It takes no time. It took me about 10 minutes to complete this recipe. This is great for one of those busy nights. I like to prepare my rice ahead of time. So in a pan, you're going to add your oil. You're going to add your curry. And like I said in my last video, I always cook my curry ahead of time because I was told that you needed to cook your curry. But I will tell you that it produces beautiful color and the most delicious flavor and aroma ever. So I always do. So to your curry, you're going to add your green marinade sauce. You're just going to stir it around to make sure that it distributes throughout and make sure that those flavors combine. You don't want anything to burn, but you do want the marinade to cook through because the rice is already cooked and all you're going to be doing is adding it to the pan. Here I only added one portion of the rice because I wanted to make sure you guys saw it, so I ended up having to go back and do the second portion of the rice. If I would have put it all in this particular pan, it would not fit. This is a very filling meal because you're getting quite a bit of rice, and this is also a meatless meal. So not only is it a one pot, it's meatless, and it is absolutely delicious. And like I said, it takes no time to cook. So I've added my rice here, and all I'm doing is just heating through the rice. Like I said earlier, I think that for fried rices, the older the rice, the better. So I'm just making sure that everything's getting coated with some of that nice curry marinated oil. So I'm just stirring it around, make sure everything gets heated. I'm scraping the bottom to make sure nothing's sticking. And that rice is nice and fluffy. So you just want to keep the rice moving because it's being cooked on a high heat. You don't want anything to burn, but you do want it to heat through, and you do want to coat every piece of rice. Now, if you want to add salt and pepper, that's to your discretion, but the rice was already cooked with salt, and the marinade is salted as well, so that's up to you if you want to add more salt. So once you have the rice coated and it's heated through, you want to go ahead and add your veggies. I added the pepper mix first, and that's going to produce a little bit of liquid as well as your frozen veggies. So there I added the frozen veggies. So that helps to scrape anything that's on the bottom of the pot, and it takes more of that flavor and adds it to the rice. So you just want to keep scraping the bottom, and you want to make sure that everything's heated through. You want to make sure that rice is being coated, the veggies are being coated, and then you'll notice all the beautiful colors. You know, we eat with our eyes. So this is a beautiful meal. It smells delicious. It is so easy to eat. It was hard to stop eating this. So you just want to keep stirring, and the hardest process here is just the stirring. It takes you no more than 10 minutes to cook this meal because the rice has already been cooked, the veggies are already cooked. You just want it to cook through that marinade, and you want it to make sure that that marinade and the curry incorporated. And there you have it, our curry fried rice. Very colorful and delicious. So our next recipe is chicken noodle soup. An oldie but a goodie. So to the pan I added some oil. I'm adding my pepper and onion mix. I'm just going to fry that down a little bit. I like to make sure that my flavors come through, so I find that frying helps that to happen. And because this is a soup, this is going to cook down anyway, so you can cook it as long as you want or as little as you want. I just like that flavor to come through. So to the vegetables, I'm going to add the green marinade, and I'm going to add some salt and some pepper. And you just want to make sure that you cook that marinade, and it smells so good when you mix the veggies with the marinade, and it's always so colorful as well. So to my onion pepper mix with the marinade, I'm going to add the chicken that I had left over. This was about a quarter of chicken. I think I still had some chicken pieces left. So I just threw it all in there. There was no need to marinate this because it was going to sit and cook in this marinade. So there I'm adding some salt. I like to be generous with my salt because this is going to create a salt for your soup. So here I'm adding pepper as well. Salt and pepper to your taste. I always like to get chicken started by browning it just a little, not too much, but I like it to get just a little bit of heat to it. And I like to make sure that it gets some of the marinade on it. So we're going to continue to stir to make sure it doesn't stick. There's no need to brown it. We just want to make sure that it heats a little bit. So to the chicken, I'm going to add 7 cups of water. And I'm going to let that cook for about 45 minutes to an hour. Because I cut my chicken pieces up, it doesn't really take as long as it would if I had the whole chicken. And I went back in when the chicken was halfway cooked to just skim off all that foam that collects at the top. And just be careful when you're doing this. You can take the pot off the stove to do this. I am old school, so I just go in with the heat and all. And I like to give it a stir too while I'm here. So I'm just stirring to make sure nothing's sticking and to make sure everything's still cooking. Okay, so after about an hour, I pull my chicken out and then I debone it and I shred it. I take all the skin off and I just shred it down to very small pieces. This is not a large piece of chicken. Remember, I only used about a leg quarter. So I just wanted to make sure that even though it's not a lot of chicken, that everybody was able to get pieces inside of their chicken soup. Once I put my chicken in, I went ahead and put in that pasta and I put the frozen veggies. There's no need to let the frozen veggies cook. They're just going to heat through. If you're serving your pasta immediately, go ahead and keep your heat high. But I was going to serve mine in about 20 minutes, so I just turned the heat off and let the heat cook the pasta. And there you have it, some delicious chicken soup. And I want to thank you guys for coming back. And I hope that you subscribe. And I have tons of videos coming out. So thank you again. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.